Welcome back to Title Trinity, the series where I am pushing 3 separate paladins on 3 separate specs to the 0.1% Mythic Plus title. The ultimate goal of this series is to become Elismir 2.0. However, the reality is probably a lot different. On screen are the scores from the last episode. As you can see, all of the paladins sort of climbing up nicely, but we were still a fair whack behind the title cutoff on every single one of the characters. So we had a lot of work to do. Starting us out in a plus 19 streets. Now, I got extraordinarily unlucky on this first boss. Prior to this clip, I'd also gotten the interrogation once. I managed to be able to bubble this one and then proceeded to get interrogation twice more. This made it 4 in a row. Now, it's probably better for me to get it than the Demon Hunter, but like, surely the Hunter gets at least one. We just lost so much damage on this boss specifically. However, this didn't stop us. This run overall was fairly sloppy. You can see here we've got 5 deaths going into the second to last boss. Ultimately, Street's been a very gentle timer, even at the 19-20 mark, means that we are able to get this finished off and get a nice little +1 key increase, despite the time not being overly fast. Next up, we are over to the Prot Paladin. Now, this was probably one of the bigger keys for the episode. This is a +20 Dawnbreaker, which was also resilient. Now, even though it was resilient, we're showing here the first attempt where I just managed to flop on this lust pull. However, my confidence was actually quite high here because I made it to this lust pull after doing 2 of what are likely the hardest pulls for tanks in this entire season. So we came into the second run pretty confident. This pull being the first one, it is extremely hard on Prot Paladin and any tank for that matter. The order of abilities that I want to use here is generally going to be Spell Ward once my stacks get to sort of that 15 to 20 mark. Let them stack back up. We want to bubble off the second one and then ideally get like a binding shot or a vortex for the third. This normally would be enough to then get us through. The difficulty though with this pull is that the next pull is equally as hard. Now, I have attempted this route again quite a few times doing the key with other people. I'm not entirely sure how I managed to live this. This pull is hard, like extraordinarily hard, and it's particularly hard for a Prot Paladin. I'm not sure whether I maybe just got lucky and fizz blocked like everything that I possibly could, but onto this pull again, the order of abilities is going to be very similar for this pull. We want to Spell Ward first and then bubble second, although here we did bubble first, which I think is a slight mistake, but ultimately it obviously didn't make a difference. And we finish this 20 Dawnbreaker off with about 1 minute and 20 to spare. The exciting thing about this is this key is almost certainly just a lock-in title key. There is no way that a 21 Dawnbreaker is going to be required for title. And 1 minute 20 under is like reasonably quick for, I'm sure there's like maybe 1 minute or so to spare, but not enough to really worry about. So I think we can pretty comfortably say that Dawnbreaker is now locked in. Now I wish that we could continue the trend. However, I was not able to keep myself alive in this 21 holes. My ability on Prot Paladin is still probably a little behind where I'd want it to be. Honestly, I've got a newfound respect for tanks. It is a very, very hard role. I think I would rather do anything other than tanking going forward. So it's been a good experience, but I don't think I'll be doing it again in the future expansion. We tried a lot more to swap it up to the other paladins this fortnight. You can see here we are in an ecodome, which we do unfortunately brick. It was only with 4 deaths, but they were fairly consequential deaths, like DPS dying and not being able to be rezzed for like significant periods of time. So we lost a lot of time with that. We then roll in here on the Holy Paladin in a +19 Gambit. Now I'm becoming a lot more confident with Holy Paladin. I actually genuinely think that it is quite like sleeper good. Not insanely good, but when it's played properly, the throughput that Holy Pally has is actually very, very strong. Unfortunately though, as we can see here, we come into this last room with, 9 minutes to spare. We are cruising here, but as we fast forward through this little part, you can see in the background, the caster becomes active again. None of us notice it, and the unstable rift kills everybody. See, I'm in a state of disbelief for a second, but it's very unfortunate because I thought this run overall was going quite well. up until this point, and similar struggles popping up in the plus 20 gambit. We did try a slightly alternate route here with CCing the 2 casters off to the side and pulling the 2 extra officers into this big pull. It's doable, I think, but it also, you can see people just getting clapped by these officers charging out. And then onto what was pretty much the bane of our existence for this fortnight, 20 Ara. I've said in previous videos that I was quite confident with our ability to do this key. We actually nearly timed it on a 20 like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I think I may have jinxed it. So even this run here being a perfect example, we come in, we're looking really good, and then one mistake, this time from me, and we die, and it's all over. This is going to be a recurring theme as well. We do then make our way into a resilient ecodome courtesy of Shock the Lad. We brick this first one. We've got 6 deaths on the board, and they were like fairly rough deaths as well. But the fortunate thing about resilient keys is we can run it back. Now, when we do run this back, we actually finish this one with maybe only a couple of minutes to spare. There's definitely time to save. I have a feeling that there's a reasonable chance that a 21 is going to be sort of required for title, but there's also a chance that it may not be. So the very least, we need to try and get a faster 20 in here, like bare minimum for sure. Unfortunately, as the trend has been this season on tank, I think my mental fortitude in the keys that are like 1 level up, where we have 1 go, is not quite as good. This 21 gambit does not go to plan. We have some runaways, extra mobs coming in. It's just, man, tanking is hard. There's just so much to think about. So as a way to break it up this week, I really did make sure to play some of the other characters, especially because the key levels being 1 or 2 levels lower makes them just a tiny bit more relaxed. This key on the Holy Paladin went really, really well. We met basically every healing check. We had one little whoopsies here with these slashes coming up. This seems to happen really, really frequently, so I'm not even surprised. And we managed to finish the key off with only a handful of seconds left, but more so the fact that I was very, very comfortable in my ability to keep everyone alive. Holy Pally in wings is still, I think, one of the strongest healers. It really struggles outside of its healing cooldowns, but inside healing cooldowns, it is extraordinarily good. Even we see this pull here, this mini boss Damien is normally quite tricky. Now this is a 17, so it's a little bit lower. We've still managed to get through this very comfortably, and then this Paladin room is probably the hardest point of the entire season for Holy Pally. Holy struggles a lot with sustained healing over long periods of time, and this pull in particular is really hard because there's sort of no let up. You can keep everyone alive through one set of tolls and then be really, really struggling for the next. But we get through this and we absolutely motor through this plus 17. Necro and Steph and all these boys are just like Giga Chad gamers, but like we still finish this 17 with like 5 minutes to spare, which is like actually rapid. So on a bit of a high, we come in to what I alluded to before, the Ara prison. Now Ara, I think, is like not objectively the hardest key, but it shouldn't be that difficult. At least I didn't think. We were in here for 2 full nights, basically. Shock, being the absolute legend that he is once again giving us control over his resilient key, and we slammed our head against this key over and over. Now, the real tragic thing, we almost had it the first run that we did. We had a few deaths prior to this. I obviously now here get sucked into the boss. And then after that, I don't know whether this just triggered something inside me. I proceeded to die over and over. We then wipe in the second section here because I just get clapped by these assistants. Now they do hurt. Extraction strike does hurt, but like looking at this here, I have Eye of Tear. I had things to keep myself alive. I could have health potted. I could have just used more Word of Glories, and then the mental fully deteriorates. I then start wiping to things like a pole. Oh, there's a pole. Oh my god. Or the cliff. One more stack of poisons, and then all right, going. Oh, dude, nah, I'm fucking. That's it. I'm not playing anymore. So it's at this point that as you hear, decided that no, we are having a pause for the night. Fortunately, the autism is strong and I will basically always return to do the same thing again. So we come back the next day, and after a couple of attempts, we do knock over this key. This was very, very tough, and it ended up being the last score key for the Paladin this week, aside from like maybe a couple of extra points here and there, but really nice. Just like the Dawnbreaker, I'm pretty sure 20 Ara is going to be the highest we'll have to go. This key we could potentially do a lot faster. However, for the time being, I don't think I really want to touch this at all for a little while. So, as a reward for ourselves, we hit up the Ret Pally. Now, this was a bit of a tragic run as well. We were looking okay for time, like it wasn't exactly smooth here, but I think we definitely had time to get in and finish the boss off. However, I think the tank just moved these ads across the bridge a little bit too quickly. Just made it too hard to dodge, I think, and people just died in the end. Fortunately, though, we can roll into a 19 Echo Dome, get that ticked off on the Ret Paladin, and then a 17 Priory. Now, my priorities are so low on all of the characters, like particularly on the Ret and the Holy Pally they were. It hasn't necessarily been just because of failures. I literally just haven't really seen the key at all. So getting this knocked over on a 17 is just nice just to get it like ticked off in a sense. And then making our way over onto the Holy Pally, again, feeling a lot more comfortable healing on this class. I'm certainly not perfect at it, but I am now finally feeling like I'm not just getting overloaded every time the healing gets too intense. I am actually able to sort of stabilize my brain and get enough numbers out. Holy Pally on this mailroom boss is awesome. You can bubble if you have it yourself, and you have bop for someone else. Probably one of the few bosses in this entire season where like having a paladin that isn't a tank paladin is actually like really, really cool. We do finish off. This was a very sloppy run, but like we do manage to get the 19 streets under the belt. Not so much for the Ara, though. This isn't a blanket thing, but there are some dungeons that I'm getting very comfortable healing. Ara isn't one, so the pain continues in here. We do manage to get some revenge on the Ret Paladin, though. Fortunately, it's nice to get a win under the belt without having to spend hours in here. And I wish that I could follow this up on the Holy Pally. We were looking really good in this 19 Ara on Holy. I felt like I kind of played really well. I locked in so friggin' hard. And then we just had this accidental pull of the flyers at the end that just brought it all unstuck. It's obviously easy to get frustrated at these sorts of situations, but I think the fact that I now know that I can keep up healing-wise in these sorts of situations is actually really, really good for like the confidence. And then we finished off this episode with a few attempts at a resilient Priory. This at a 20 and Floodgate at a 20 are going to be extremely difficult. I think just across the board, not just for tanks, just like for every one of the characters. I'm not entirely sure if they're going to be hard required for title, but they're probably like 80% of the chance is that they're going to be. The real difficulty here is looking at the timed runs and even just the damage in this run that we did. Prot Pally struggles a lot, or the group at the very least struggles a lot without a warrior. A lot of the runs on Raider.io, it seems, involve having Prot Pally and then either a Fury Warrior or a Shaman or both at the same time. So we might have to do a bit of weird cooking and like ring in some favors to try and get this key done. Floodgate as well, just a very hard key. So I'm assuming that the next 2 to 4 weeks over the Christmas break is basically going to be me hammering my head against on this screen. Key. Now, as promised, we did not gain 100 IO on every character. So somebody wins a WoW token. If the winner from the last video can reach out as well, I will pop your name on screen again, and then we will go to the spinner wheel to see the winner of this episode. I don't know what I was thinking, promising 100 points gain across all characters. The funny thing is that 100 points gain for Prot Pally would have basically just been I didn't even have to log on for the rest of the season, because I think that would have been basically title cutoff, right? Okay, so we've pasted the YouTube link into the random comment picker to see who is going to be the winner of the WoW token. 97 comments. I didn't actually remember there being that many comments, so thank you for the engagement. Still pretty good odds on a token, but let's do the spin. And the winner is me. Okay, well, that's not going to work. As if it picks the pinned comment. Okay, we're going again. Strong. You win a WoW token. I will send you a message on Discord. Congratulations. And with that, the final scores at the end of this episode are listed on screen. The really big standout here at the moment is that the Prot Paladin is just sneaking in title range, but for the first time this season is actually past the cutoff. Now, there is still a lot of work to do. It's really hard to tell how high the title cutoff is going to climb this patch. The engagement at the moment is very, very low. There is not many people playing. However, there is still a solid month and a half left of the season. So I'm predicting that we're probably going to need, at a bare minimum, another 40 IO. And I'm thinking that maybe 3,900 plus is the target that we have to shoot for. Obviously, for the prop pally, we're getting pretty close, but it's still a long way away. The other characters we're going to have to put in some elbow grease for. Enough from me. I will now log back on and keep surfing LFG again. Big thank you to my channel members, Ghost Splinter, and everybody else on screen. If you want to support, click the join button below. Otherwise, thank you for watching until the end. Until next time, gamers, take care.